You only feel the bite when it's too late.
That was the last thing Officer Rachel Monroe's grandmother said before slipping into her final sleep, words that echoed like thunder in Rachel's heart, 10 years after that rainy funeral in Bay Hollow. Now 32, Rachel had returned to her sleepy hometown for one reason only: to sell the old Monroe house and close the final chapter of a story she never understood.
But midnight came, and something bit back.
Rachel parked her SUV in front of the creaky White House, the porch light flickering as if protesting her return. The town of Bay Hollow hadn't changed a bit: same mossy sidewalks, same sleepy gas station, same people who still called her Ray when they saw her. But she was no longer the skinny girl with tangled hair riding her bike down Willow Creek Lane. She was a decorated police officer from Boston.
Logical. Practical. Tough.
Yet even she couldn't ignore the strange fear that nestled in her chest as she stepped over that threshold. That night, while sorting through dusty boxes in the attic, she found an old photograph, her grandmother, smiling but with a wound just barely visible under her collarbone.
The back read, July 17, 1982, the night it began.
Suddenly, the house groaned, not like old wood, but like something breathing.
And then the bite came. It wasn't physical. It was in the dream.
She stood at the foot of the staircase in the Monroe house, wearing a nightgown that wasn't hers.
A man with sharp eyes and bloodless skin stood in the kitchen doorway.
His voice was silk, but his words pierced her.
You opened the door. Now you've invited me in.
She awoke, sweating, heartbeat thunderous.
It felt too real.
The next morning, she laughed it off.
Stress, old memories, too much wine. But Bay Hollow had other plans.
By evening, news spread fast: 3 missing pets, drained of blood, found near the creek. Locals whispered of the Bay Hollow beast, a folktale turned real. Rachel dug into the town's archives. Turns out, every 10 years, something terrible happened around July 17, disappearances.
Blood. Fear. It always began with dreams and a bite.
The deeper she dug, the more the past bled into the present. She met Ethan Kane, the local librarian, and her high school crush, now a widower with a daughter, Lily.
Ethan remembered the stories.
His wife had vanished 10 years earlier, her shoes found by the edge of Willow Creek. She too had dreamed of a man who smelled like winter and whispered at midnight.
Rachel didn't want to believe it.
But then Lily screamed one night. She had dreamed of the man too. Rachel, Ethan, and a small group of townsfolk, including a retired priest and a Wiccan herbalist, formed a fragile alliance.
The town had ignored its curse for too long.
The group traced the origin of the legend to a man named Elias Voss, a Civil War soldier turned nightwalker, a vampire created not by desire but by rage. Legend said he had once loved a Monroe woman who betrayed him, and since then, every Monroe descendant was cursed with the invitation dream.
Rachel was next in line. That night, they set the trap.
Armed with silvered nets, herbs, and an ancient ritual, they waited.
Midnight came. So did the bite.
Rachel stood alone in the living room, her veins like fire, body frozen. Elias Voss emerged from the shadows, his presence commanding.
But Rachel didn't back down.
"You've had your time," she growled, clenching the locket her grandmother once wore. Inside, a piece of parchment with the original sealing words.
Voss smiled, revealing fangs that shimmered like bone. You invited me. I'm uninviting you. The group burst in. Light flared from the ritual circle. Ethan read the banishment.
Lily's voice, pure and unbroken, sang the lullaby her mother once sang, the final key.
Voss screamed, fading into ash.
Rachel collapsed, but the town breathed for the first time in decades. Days later, Rachel stood by the creek with Ethan and Lily. The nightmares stopped. The house was finally quiet. Bay Hollow was safe.
Will you stay? Ethan asked softly.
Rachel looked at the sunlit water, remembering her grandmother's words.
No, she smiled. But I'll visit.
Some bites are just meant to remind us we survived.